right, good morning everyone. We're going to jump in. Welcome to our Romance Languages Parent Coffee. This coffee is specifically for families that are interested in or have children in our Pathways in Spanish and French, which are world language or language acquisition tracks for the Romance languages. There we go. So joining us today, we have Paloma.
Hi, welcome and good morning, everybody. I am the interim director for World Languages this year, and I'm also Spanish, so I'm very happy that you're here and I can share with you through Brita and the people that are with us today our programs for Romance languages.
Muy buenos días. I'm Jean Rugert. I'm the PLC coach for high school Spanish and French.
Hola, buenos dias. I'm Claire. I represent the Spanish Honor Society. I am a student, and there will be more information on the Spanish Honor Society later.
Thank you so much. In a moment, Yenny Lee will also be joining us. Like Jean, Yenny is one of our PLC coaches that is working with the elementary and is a Spanish teacher. And my name is Britta McCarthy. I'm the coordinator for Spanish and French. I work closely with Paloma. And we also work with Dr. Amy Guile, our executive director of teaching and learning. She'll also be joining us in a few minutes. So as one of the many departments in the school, our whole school strategic direction is really grounded in joy and purpose. And we try to, through our philosophy of languages, make sure that as we acquire French or Spanish or Chinese, that's there. We have a purpose for being language learners. We feel joy, we experience empathy, we connect culturally, and also that we have lots of possibilities for that excellence that is part of our school. Today is just an extension of one of many spaces where we'll practice the community norms. You may be familiar with those, but you can take a moment just to look at our infographic. Today we'll share accurate information with you. We're very happy to have Claire with us so we can center the student experience and you can hear firsthand from a student. And I'll start with just a little bit of information about our programs. So we did collect some questions from parents before this, and some of those questions were really just about what we offer. And some of the questions were more like consults for specific student cases. To get into specific student cases, we usually need to ask follow-up questions and understand more about where the student is coming from in their educational career. So for those cases, you have my email and Paloma's email on the bottom, and we'll be here at 9:30 if you'd like to ask some specific student case questions. But just as a base for all of us to know what's in our program now, in our Spanish world language pathway, we start with Kinder Spanish. We go all the way through 12th grade. In elementary, we have Kinder Novice, which is a specialized novice for our youngest learners at the beginning of their language acquisition. We have novice classes and we have intermediate classes, and those are leveled based on proficiency. So unlike other subject areas, the student doesn't go from one grade to the next with grade level standards. In a proficiency-based program, they go from one level to the next based on the characteristics of their ability to speak, write, read, and listen. In middle school, we have novice, intermediate, intermediate high, advanced low, and we offer social studies in Spanish for some of our students just to give them that extra exposure and ability to transfer. And in high school, we have novice, intermediate, intermediate high, advanced, AP, and advanced topics, and we'll be expanding the advanced topics that we can offer to more different types of topics, and we'll be asking for your feedback on that today. For French world languages, our pathway is a little bit shorter, but we are looking at how to expand that as well and taking in that data. So that begins at grade 6. We offer novice and intermediate, and then in high school we offer novice, intermediate, intermediate high, AP, and we can look at ATs as well. So APs are advanced placement. Those come from programs organized through the College Board. And then ATs also offer the opportunity of taking advanced placement tests, but those are within what we call our advanced studies program. The image that you can see there comes from ACTFL, which is the organization that provides a lot of our guidance as a proficiency-based program. And you can see at the center, it's really about getting students to communicate. So they communicate in ways where they're interpreting or using the interpretive mode, which includes reading and listening, presentational mode, which is speaking and writing, and interpersonal mode, which goes into different domains: writing, reading, speaking, and listening. And then the C's on the outside are some of the standards or contexts for what they're doing with that communication, which has so much to do with making connections to themselves and world communities, cultures, communities, and comparisons. So that's a little bit about our program as a base. And then for specific cases, you can definitely talk to any number of people in the room if you'd like to do that. So today, we'll start with a little bit of trivia. We will share some things that are happening in our Romance Languages program. We'll share some department goals with you, and then we will ask you for your voice on both pathways and ways to deepen engagement in the Romance languages while in Singapore. And then we have a short exit survey to finish up. So we were happy that October 9th, our Romance Languages Coffee fell within a larger celebration in the school context. So we have a little bit of trivia. Don't worry, it's not a competition. Everyone's going to win. So don't worry, we're not gonna count points or anything like that. But what you'll do is on your table, you have these really high-tech erasers. These are your whiteboards, and then these are your markers. So just have a conversation with people at your table about these trivia questions, and then you can just hold them up. Like I said, we won't look at points. It's really just to have a little fun and to understand why in Singapore American School, why Hispanic Heritage Month is important to us and where that came from. Okay, so here we go. All right, so here's a little trivia question. Hispanic Heritage Week was actually declared in 1968 by a US president, and this is what he said when he made Hispanic Heritage Week. You can see his picture there, so if you know that president's name, you can write it on your whiteboard, but if you don't, it's also okay. We'll tell it to you in just a moment. Let's see if anybody out there happens to know the US president that made Hispanic Heritage Week for the first time. You can use your whiteboards, you can write on them, if you have any ideas. Yep, you can guess. You can write SpongeBob SquarePants if that's what comes to your mind, since we've got our amazing performing arts coming up. Eisenhower, good guess. Any other guesses out there? Okay, so this is President Johnson, and in 1968, he felt that the contributions of Hispanic people in the United States were so important that they were worth recognizing in a more formal way. In the United States, every 10 years, they do a census. And in the 1930s, all Hispanic people, regardless of where they were from, they were noted in a certain way on the census. So this trivia question is a guess. How do you think all Hispanic people, speakers of Spanish, were noted on the US Census in the 1930s? Any guesses out there? Your hint is that Hispanic identity, it comes from a shared language, which is Spanish. However, Spanish is spoken in so many different countries that understanding of Hispanic identity has become really expansive over time. Okay? So Hispanic people in the 1930s, so this is about 100 years ago, they were noted by a nationality, which was Mexican. So regardless of where they came from nationally, that was the way that the census categorized them, which is just an interesting thing to see how much more expansive our idea of what it means to be Hispanic or Spanish-speaking or Latino means than it was 100 years ago. Okay, here's another one. So 20 years later, President Reagan changed Hispanic Heritage Week from 7 days to a whole month. He said, this is so important, it deserves a whole month. But he wanted to keep the start date as September 15th. So Hispanic Heritage Month goes from the 15th of September all the way through the 15th of October. Does anyone know why? You have a few hints up there. We are also thinking about cultures, which is part of the ACTFL framework. We're thinking about how there's lots of different identities represented in linguistic groups. Any guesses out there on our whiteboards? Okay, September 15th is a really significant date to those 5 countries because it's their Independence Day. And in addition to El Salvador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and Costa Rica, it's also 16 de septiembre is Mexico, 18 is Chile, 21, I can't remember, but there's many, many Independence Days for these countries. So that was taken into consideration when we think about why is Hispanic Heritage Month on these dates? It's because that was the independence of those nations from Spain. But that is a big part of the identity, is that shared Spanish language through history. Okay, does anyone know of any other names that Hispanic Heritage Month goes by? There's 2 other major names that it goes by. And it's on that big theme of why, what does that cultural or that identity piece mean? Okay, picked really hard questions today. But everybody wins, don't worry, so thanks for participating. So Hispanic Heritage Month, it also goes by Latin American History Month and Latino Identity Month. So that also captures, in addition to Spanish speakers on the Latin American continent, that shared culture that they also have with people, for example, in Brazil, who are on the same continent, but they speak Portuguese. Yet it's in that Romance language family, and there's lots of identity shared between those different nations and people on the Latin American continent. Okay. Here's one more. What percentage of Latino or Latinx people in the United States identify as African descendants? So everybody can guess on this one. It's a percentage. So you could put anything between 0 and 100. %? Any other guesses out there? Okay, very close. It's 25. So that I put this in here so that we can also understand how diverse that identity is. We can't necessarily say it's just about the language you speak or the country that you're from and how much that understanding of what Hispanic Heritage Month means. It's very inclusive of many different races. It's inclusive now of different languages beyond Spanish. And it's really about a much larger shared history. And we've been celebrating at SAS. Has anybody heard from their children in Spanish language classes how they're learning and celebrating and sharing this month? Claire's going to help us with this one, and so is Yenny. But have you heard anything about what your children are doing or have done? Okay. The summative was not in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay, we've had some celebrations, and that one will come out later. All right, you all have been lovely participants. So Paloma's going to share some buttons with you. You're welcome to re-gift them to your children. They're motivational buttons. So thank you for joining in our trivia, and I hope that you found something interesting about why at SAS this is important to us, and really just as a big idea as language speakers, how it means so much more than just the language we speak. We have so many ways of understanding or connecting with people around the world. Okay, so on that theme, we have so much to celebrate, and we have some people with us that are going to share about that. So I'm going to welcome Claire to talk to us a little bit about some of the amazing things happening in Spanish, and then we'll also see what's happening in French through a video. Welcome, Claire.
Hola, buenos dias again. As I previously mentioned, I represent the Spanish Honor Society, which is a group of students that aims to contribute to our SAS community by honoring Hispanic cultures and offering services to enrich students like Spanish learning experience. So recently, we inducted 18 new members to our society. This is actually a photo from last year. And every year when we induct members, we have a ceremony to honor their interest and devotion to the program. So, yes, that's what the inductions were. Some programs that we've been doing have actually taken place during Hispanic Heritage Month, so the timing's really good. One of our programs is called Cuenta Cuentos. It translates to storytellers. So basically, in this program, the high school students in the society, we read some books in Spanish, like picture books, to some elementary students. It was quite fun. It was very informative. We got to talk to the children and ask them questions about the book and ask them, oh, do you know what this word means? And if not, let me explain it to you. It was very informative for them, and for us, it was also a good chance to practice our reading with expression and also just be able to interact with kids. Here are some more photos. You can see that sometimes the kids would bring the physical book, or if they didn't have enough copies, we also made a slideshow, so sometimes it was just on screen. It was quite fun. Okay, and our last big thing for the society is Spanish tutoring. We do it 3 ways. There are 3 modalities. One of which is an online session before ILS exams. For those of you whose children are not in high school, ILS just means it's a speaking summative. And we offer online sessions to give kids tips on what kind of questions to ask, what they should mention, and so on. And so that's a group session, but we also offer one-to-one tutoring all year round for not just the speaking, but also reading, writing, listening, any sort of skill, any one of those 4 skills. And also we've been doing office hours every Monday from 3:15 to 4:15, and basically what these office hours are is I would describe it as similar to the online sessions except offline. So we work with groups of students and we help them with all of the skills.
Thank you, Claire. Actually, I'd love to say thank you to Claire in particular. She's one of our high school students who's not only in the Spanish Honor Society, she's one of our officers. She's also one of our students who's been 11 years in our Spanish program here. So el nivel de español es excepcional. So thank you. So as one of the Spanish teachers who has the opportunity to encourage my own students to be taking advantage, I'm actually going to go back quickly and make a transition. I am both a coach and a teacher in the high school. And this year, this program has grown so much out of what the members have created. And so I'm finding some of my students recently have dropped into their prep session, and finding that they're much more confident. So, and it's worth being aware of that this is a service provided by the Honor Society members. One of the things that we're very excited about this year is the return of an opportunity during interim semester in the high school. Similar to middle school that goes classroom without walls, the high school takes a week in February. Last year, post-COVID, when a lot of these things disappeared, last year French was able to renew or revive a language immersion interim semester course. This year, Spanish is launching, so we have 20 students already registered. These, because they are language immersion, go through a pre-registration process. So those groups of students are already identified, and you'll hear more about the French one in the video coming up. This year, Senora Villaceros and our assistant principal, Anthony Pollard, are going to be taking the group of 20 to southern Spain, and they will be immersed in the language. I'm going to now pass, because I'm actually transitioning to the high school parent the parent conferences, so I can start meeting some families. My colleague Laurence Hervedosa has recorded a video with also student voice to share more about the French offerings, unless we want to, and then we'll transition over. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to Claire.
Welcome
and
to the
Jean.
French Department. Bienvenue dans le département de français de l'École américaine de Singapour. We offer cultural trips to France every year. You won't just study French, you will live it. Our inter-school debates will teach you how to be an effective communicator with strong and clear arguments. You will gain through fluency through the full immersion with our unique partnership at the French School of Singapore, IFS. Achieve mastery through the DELF exams and a strong curriculum here at Singapore American School, and reach the highest level with our AP and Advanced French programs. Our teachers are committed to help you become an exceptional communicator, reach the highest level, and explore, celebrate the French-speaking countries, language, and culture. Join us. This journey opens the doors to your future.
Bonjour, moi je m'appelle Luc et nous avons participé au programme d'immersion en France l'an dernier. Une expérience culturelle et linguistique en France. Nous avons apprécié des monuments merveilleux, une expérience intime avec des familles locales et des explorations des industries artisanales fascinantes de la France. Nous avons beaucoup s'amusé ensemble, mais nous avons aussi appris énormément de français. Every year, all French-taking students at SAS have the opportunity to not just learn French, but to live it as well. Our French language immersion trip allows students from the novice to AP level to experience Paris's renowned historic sites, as well as immerse themselves in the language while learning about the region's industrial and artisanal industries, all while soaking in the cultural heritage of Vichy and experiencing daily immersion of French. Thank you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Tara et j'ai aussi participé dans le programme l'immersion dans France l'an dernier. Mornings are spent in language and culture enrichment and immersion classes, while afternoons allow us to explore more towns like Clermont-Ferrand, visit museums, cook French food, and even more active projects like ropes course. For 8 days, you can gain confidence in your French, thrive in a French town with language classes and a French host family, and grow closer to your classmates by sharing a love of the French culture. Vive la France!
Bonjour, je m'appelle Elena et je suis la présidente de la Société honoraire de français.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Wan Hee et je suis la secrétaire de la SHF, une société qui cultive la communauté francophone de SAS, donnant aux membres l'opportunité de présenter leur travail et leurs nombreuses réussites dans la langue française à leurs pairs et aux universités.
Hi, my name is Elena and I'm the president of the French Honor Society at SAS.
Hi, my name is Wan Hee and I'm the secretary of FHS at SAS. As officers, it's a tremendous privilege to introduce to you the French Honor Society.
Our mission is to inspire, support, and serve the French department and all students at SAS who are dedicated to learning this beautiful language. FHS cultivates the French-speaking community at SAS, giving members the opportunity to showcase their hard work and many successes in the language to peers and to universities.
It is entirely student-run. We offer both cultural and service events to help members fully immerse themselves in the French language and maintain their level of excellency.
These events include our inductions, tutoring other French students, running a clip booth at the International Fair, watching French movies, and more. Thank you.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Trina.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Noah.
Le département de français à Singapore American School propose depuis plus de 10 ans un programme de débat qui s'appelle les Joutes oratoires.
La compétition a eu chaque année en novembre à UWC avec des écoles comme SAS, UWC Dover et des autres.
Ce programme ouvert aux francophones et aux non-francophones aide vraiment à améliorer la prise de parole en public.
C'est une belle tradition qui donne aux élèves une occasion unique de participer dans un cadre stimulant.
Merci. Hello, my name is Drina.
Hello, my name is Noah.
The French department at Singapore American School has been offering for more than 10 years a debate program called Les Joutes oratoires.
Competition takes place every year in November at UWC with schools like SAS, UWC Dover, and others.
This program, open to francophones and non-francophones, really helps improve public speaking skills.
It's a beautiful tradition that gives students a unique opportunity to participate in a stimulating environment.
Thank you. Bye.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Martin et j'ai participé à l'échanger avec le IFS, l'école française de Singapour. Et c'est une expérience très bien pour tous les étudiants en français parce que on peut voir et on peut voir les jours les jours d'un étudiant français. Bonjour. Hi, my name is Vardon. I've participated in the exchange with the IFS, which is the International French School. It is truly an experience to behold as you experience the everyday life of a French student, which is very much different from the average school day for us here at Singapore American School.
Throughout the school year, the students are suggested to take some exams during their studies, and they can do the DELF A1, A2, B1, B2. Acquiring B2 exam will open the doors of universities in France, and it will be an asset in their resume and their French studies and learning. We do encourage the students to take this exam. Last year, all students who took the exam passed with success. Thank you so much for your attention. We really appreciate the time, the support you give your children to achieve their dreams and their journey in the education. Bye-bye and see you soon. Au revoir.
Okay, that was again from Laurence in our high school French department. Hopefully through the student voice that we shared today and through some of these programmatic insights, you can see how we're really trying to create deep engagement around the language that allows us to really foster that excellence and that intercultural communication and competence. I mentioned earlier that you'd have some more information in addition to what Claire shared about how we're celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So we are excited to have Yenny Lee here with us, and she's going to share a little bit about what happened in elementary. So welcome, Yenny.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm going to explain a little bit how was our event that we planned in our PLC Spanish in elementary school. I am one of the Spanish teachers in the amazing team of the elementary school Spanish department, and I am also the PLC leader and the instructional coach. Since September 15 to October 15, we celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month. So we wanted to bring to our students a celebration and for them to learn about our cultures and traditions. On October 7, we came together and we invited our PLC colleagues from the Chinese department and also with our students. And we invited a group of traditional Mexican dance. The name is Mitote. They were fortunately free that day, so they could come here and do some dance demonstrations and teach the students how to dance the dance from Jalisco and Veracruz. Here you can see some pictures of our day. No, it's not showing. You can see the program we had through the whole day. They were with our student every single block, teaching them the dance and teaching them how to dance the. I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. Okay. We were just amazed seeing our students' face. They were like open wide eyes when they saw the beautiful dresses and the music, and they were asking questions and participating with a lot of enthusiasm. I will show you a little bit of a video. Oh, I think the video is not going to show either. Yeah, probably. We have in that group one of our Spanish teacher from middle school, and she was also teaching them, and she prepared a presentation teaching the student about Mexico, and they were participating, and as you can hear their voices when they were just watching the videos. Here, this is a representation of how to do the dance, and she was also explaining about Jalisco state dancing and traditional dresses. Also, there is another representation of they were asking questions, very interesting questions and very funny. Our students are great. And here you have more pictures of them trying. We put them in a circle, and they were just learning a little bit of how to dance that. They told us, we are going to teach our parents to dance this. I don't know if they did, but they told us they are going to. And that's pretty much everything that we had celebrating the Hispanic Heritage Month in elementary PLC Spanish. Thank you.
Thanks, Yenny. We can do a little applause. Aplauso. Sorry, I thought about that word in Spanish and I said applause. Aplauso. So yes, our students have had very rich experiences and opportunities. Yenny played a huge role in organizing that, and it is such a treat that May, this dancer in the red dress, she's in our middle school department, and she just is such a role model. She speaks Spanish and French, and she does this folkloric dance and brought this presentation to our kids. We have incredible people in our community that really expand and enhance everything that we can do at SAS, so we're really proud of that. Thanks, Yenny. She has to go back to curriculum development, so our teachers are in and out of their parent-teacher conferences and the many things that they're doing. Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit about what we're doing across all the languages. This information is also true for our Chinese program. So as a world language department, what are we working on in the classroom so that that pedagogy that the teachers are using is the best it can possibly be, promoting excellence in our proficiency-based program. So here's our vision. I did mention that earlier on, we really want language learning to help our students acquire high levels of proficiency, but we also want it to be driven by purpose and allow them to connect with others, experience joy, empathy, and really understand it as a broader part of their own identity and their way to connect with others. So that is our world language vision. Hopefully that's really come through today and a lot of the things that were shared by teachers and students. But in the classroom, some of the things that it takes to really get that proficiency level high so that we can connect, it takes a lot of student production. That means that we need our students talking all the time. We need them writing all the time. Language learning and acquiring language cannot be passive. So the classrooms can't sound quiet for very long, and it can't really just be about the teacher talking. It really has to have a lot of student production for them to be like Claire, for example, who's a really confident speaker and really able to connect through language. When we say target language, we mean the language of the class. So it doesn't mean that if they're in a Chinese or a Spanish class that they're talking all the time, but they're talking in English. They're talking in the target language. The second part is the teacher target language and the use of something that we call comprehensible inputs. So comprehensible inputs allow the teacher to stay speaking in French, Spanish, or Chinese, the target language, and be understood, even if it's a challenging context. And those comprehensible inputs sometimes are like how I use my hands when I talk, or I reference things on the slides. That might allow you to understand what I'm saying more than if I stood here like this and had no slides. So we use strategies so that students can be thinking about and really have their brains working hard, but they're making sense of language, and while they're acquiring new words, new phrases, new contexts, and connections. The third one that's really big for us is we've talked about production, which is speaking and writing, but rich literacy activities. So with our young learners in elementary school for Spanish, just like in English, they need foundational skills. So they need to understand how things like phonics work, and we use books and texts to help them acquire the base of understanding the language. And then as they move up, they get additionally complex texts, all kinds of books, articles, different genres, so that they're responding to that, they're learning from that, and they're using that to create their production. How do we do that as a department from the leadership perspective? So we do classroom visits and observations. We have targeted feedback around these areas, so we let teachers know, today we saw this type of production, or we saw these literacy activities, or great job, you were speaking in the target language the whole time. We saw you used gestures and visuals for your comprehensible inputs. So that's the type of feedback that supports that growth. For data collection, we have a tool that we use, and then teams get live feedback around how they're accomplishing those areas. They also have the wonderful PLC coaches that you met today, which are really their first contact. So teachers that are having a challenge in the classroom or that want to try something new and interesting, they can connect with the PLC coaches, Jean, Yenny. There's also Daisy in middle school and Laurence in French, so they can connect with them and gain support. And we have some specialized professional development. We make sure that our placement and our pathways and program guide are also structures that support what we do. On the lines of professional development, we're really excited because we have someone who is an expert in the field coming. So we're going to welcome Dr. Anne Gregory to our school in the first week of November. Dr. Gregory is coming from Purdue University in the United States. She's got a PhD in curriculum and instruction, and she's worked with many, many different groups of people to support student acquisition of language. And she provides specific strategies to do that. So we'll have a week with her. All of our team will get professional learning with her for a full day, including our Chinese teachers. And then we have our PLC coaches meeting with her to develop some lessons. They'll teach them that week, and our teachers will get to come in and see our PLC coaches modeling these strategies for language acquisition. So we're doing some pretty innovative things in terms of professional learning to really get to the how. It's not theory, it's not just theory. It's direct strategies and how they look in the classroom while being implemented with students. So we're very excited to welcome her. Okay, we do want to get your input on 2 areas today. So at your tables, you have pencils and you have Post-it notes, and we will pick those up. So that's part of how this will work, and we'd like to see you talking to each other at your tables. The first one that we'll look at is Spanish. We have the opportunity to create another advanced topic Spanish course. We currently offer AP. So here you can see the units and the curriculum that is part of our College Board driven course. This is an external curriculum that comes to us, and then our teachers implement it, and that is the one that's in support of the AP exam. So this is the Spanish Language and Culture course. Now in advanced topics, we actually choose the topics of the curriculum, and we often try to do that thinking about our student interests. So we also have data from our students and from our teachers, but we love to hear from you. So if you were to think about a new Spanish course at the advanced level for our Spanish speakers, what are some topics that you'd like to see? What are some skills that you'd like to see our students working on? And what are some career-related connections where you think, I've heard that Spanish or French could be helpful in these career settings. So making those advanced courses as realistic as possible in ways that can help our students in the future. So like I said, this is a model of what they do in AP Spanish, but when we have more ability to make the topics of the course, what would you like to see? So we will take about 5 minutes. You can discuss at your tables, and then we will pick up your ideas in the form of those Post-it notes. Okay? All right. We'll come back together at 9:16. Okay. So what Paloma and I would really love from you is just some ideas about topics that you found. What we know about Spanish is right now it's one of the fastest growing language in terms of number of speakers. The opportunities that our students will have as people who can produce Spanish language that they've acquired, and the same goes for French, even though there's a smaller number of speakers. It's just incredible and it's growing. So it's a huge area of opportunity, and that's a big motivation for us when we think about advanced topics. So Paloma can pick up anything you've written down at your table, so just hand those to her. Did anybody want to share anything out loud with the whole group about ideas for advanced topics? Just show me a hand if there's anything you want to say to the whole group about what you're hoping for in terms of parent voice around what could be in this curriculum. Okay, Paloma will pick up your notes and we will review those. We also have data set from a student listening group and from the teachers and the things that they hear and pick up in the courses. Okay, our last topic of the day, which is really important to us, is you can see that we try to cultivate a program where there's so much going on so that they have these authentic connections and can go deeper in the languages, whether that's through cultural events or these opportunities to travel, to be in honor societies, to read books to fellow kids in the school. There's a lot going on. But what happens when they leave the school? So our next topic, and this is meant to be more of an open conversation, is about how to deepen Spanish and French exposure in Singapore. So Paloma will share a little bit. We'd also like to hear from you about ways that you have seen opportunities to deepen language.
Thank you so much, Brita, for the presentation. It was very, very instructional. Okay, so we are in Singapore, we are in Asia, so the times that we can exposure our kids to French or Spanish are a little limited. So we need to think about how to expand the timing, the instructional time that we can provide at the school with other activities if we want to keep growing. So thinking about that mindset, before I start talking about this, do you have any thank you. Do you have any way in Singapore that you found, just 1 minute turnaround, that you found in Singapore where your kid can speak Spanish or French? Have you found any ways to expand that? If you haven't, it's going to be just 1 minute. Think about what would you like to see? What would you like to see in Singapore? Just 1 minute. Turn around, turn and talk. Any places, any restaurants, any food, doesn't have to be language, any menu that you've seen, any sign, where have you seen Spanish or French in Singapore? Just 1 second, just turn around, 1 minute, please. Okay, any ideas, guys? Any restaurant that you can recommend me? Spanish or French? Or any ideas? Seriously, any?
I think there's l'Alliance Française near the Newton area, so that's they're teaching the French for both kids and adults. Yeah, that's what I know.
Thank you. The Alliance, it's part of the way that the French government promotes French around the world. So those are those schools, cultural kind of entities around the world that they have teachers, cultural activities, and as you said, they have courses for younger kids, not just courses, but activities, if you're in French, to high-level adults, activities like French movies, all kind of things. The Spanish embassy does have another one that is called Instituto Cervantes. Unfortunately, we don't have it in Singapore. It doesn't exist in Singapore. So we can take the test for the Spanish, and I'll talk about the test, but we don't have the building where the things are happening. Any other ideas? You have?
So something that I wanted to share, this is also a trick not just for acquiring language, but when you're trying to get your kids to read more. One of the main things that drives language acquisition and that drives ability to read and get better at reading in any language is interest. So if you want your kids to read more, or if you want them to speak about something more, you find something they're interested in. If they love anime, if they love football, if they love whales, whatever it is that they love, find something about it in the language, and then because their attention and their interest is high, that will help them with the background knowledge that they bring in because they love it. That will help push them further with the language. So whatever your children love outside school, it's a great opportunity to find a movie about it, find podcasts, find books, find graphic novels, find anything related to their interest in the language. And even if their language is still growing and they're not quite there, the motivation will be high for them to start acquiring even more language. And again, that's true for first languages too.
Yeah, echoing what Britta is saying, the way that I learned, not the way that I learned English, but one of the ways was playing video games. So every single video game has settings with language, and you can choose the language that the kid is doing. So it doesn't feel like it's an extra thing on the plate, but it worked very well. Movies, we have Netflix, we have Disney Channel, they have the option of Spanish over there. It doesn't matter that if it's not a Spanish movie, it can be Harry Potter, that's fine. Actually, they are going to know what is happening, so that helps in the understanding and making the connections. Put it with the Spanish voice too, or the French voice, and it's going to help a lot too. The graphic novels that you were talking, comics, they don't pay me, but Conikunilla has a section in French and in Spanish, broader in French than in Spanish. Spanish is a smaller section, but you can go. Be careful with the movies in Spanish and in French. If you go just straight to the Spanish and French movies in Netflix or any other platform, because sometimes they are for adults. Be very careful with what you show, because the sensibility to some things, to some topics, is completely different from different languages and different cultures. So something that for Spain or for France or for Mexico is totally normal, it's going to shock you. So be very careful with those things, okay? Yeah. Music too. Music too. Okay, so going to this. There is a lot of debate about the frameworks in way we teach languages. So we teach under the American framework because we are an American school. The American framework is ACTFL, so it's the left. The European is the green. Why I am saying this? Because you have the chance also in Singapore to be tested in the European system through the Alliance or through Instituto Cervantes. because we don't have Instituto Cervantes. NUS, I think, is taking the lead, but I can inform you better. So you can take the test. This test checks your foreign skills, and once you get it, it's forever. You don't have to renew it. So our French program recommends the kids to go through the test. So they have an external exam also, other than a stamp that we have in here in the school. So you can get certified by an external institution on the level of the language of your kids in Spanish and in French. So that's an option that you have, and I'm so glad that you brought up the Alliance. So that's one thing. If you want to know what the level is, you see that there are completely different kind of namings. That's okay. If you have any questions about that, we can lead you through the systems. But it's two different ways to see language, two different ways to teach languages. This is way more grammatical instruction, and this is more use instruction, like what can you do with the language. And in this one, you need to know a lot of the grammar. In the past, when I was a teacher, I used to have these classes with a lot of kids or a lot of adults, doesn't matter, who knew the book from page 1 to page 100 perfectly well. They could fill the blanks. And I don't know how you learn English, but it was the way that I learned English. And I still remember the first time that I went to England and I couldn't say one sentence. I still remember what was my sentence because I practiced for 10 minutes and it was, I'm looking for a job. That was my first sentence in real English, and I was there in front of a person. I was like, I'm looking for a job, I'm looking for a job. I need to remember that sentence, I'm looking for a job. We don't want that from our kids. We want them to be able to go to the cities, to the countries, to connect with other people and be able to communicate. That's why we really like our approach. When you are in here and you are coming all the way up, when you get to high school, you have the chance also to be certified by the Seal of Biliteracy. The Seal of Biliteracy, it's a diploma that is going to be with 2 seals that is going to give it to you when you are a senior. So that only affects the parents that are in high school or for seniors, but letting you know there is another kind of certification of your level. And the Seal of Biliteracy is recognized all around the United States. If you come to our coffee, I think I will talk about it in December, right before the break, the winter break. I'll talk more about that. And then we have the AP testing, which gives you credits for going to the university. But those are for the high schoolers. But if we are thinking about middle school or elementary school, I will also reach through Instagram groups, like there is Spanish groups like Spanish parents groups and things like that, that they organize a lot of activities for the kids to be playing in Spanish. And I bet there are in French too, so I will check that. Also, we were talking about books, music. If your kid likes soccer, as such, there are several teams from Europe that come in here and they have schools, soccer schools, like Real Madrid has one, Valencia has one. So I'm not saying just put your kids over there, please, don't get me wrong, but there are chances to get that exposure too, if they like to play. I know that the coaches are from Spain or are from France, so you can have that exploration too. And I don't want to extend myself more because I would like also to have 5 minutes just for your feedback and also for personal questions if you have any. We cannot be here for the whole morning, but if we cannot talk to you today, please set a time where we can meet and we will connect with you for sure and we will get deeper into your specific cases. Britta, do you want to say anything else? Thank you so much for coming.
I just want to say thank you again. It's great to have a room full of you that are interested and connecting with us and supporting this idea of exposure and engagement and excellence. please take our survey. This is the QR code. And like Paloma said, we're here. If you have a question about your child or how something works deep into the program, we're going to stay here for a few minutes. So just come up and talk to us. Is there anything that's a whole group question that anyone would like to have the microphone for?
I just wanted to ask if there any thought of expanding the French program to K-5.
Yes, we do monitor that. So it has come up. We look at it from time to time and use the data that we have available to decide, are we able to expand the pathways in terms of staffing? Will we have the number of students entering that we need in order to make it successful? So it is something that we monitor. Right now, 6 through 12 is what we can do, but we are always thinking about it. Do you want to add anything, Paloma?
Yeah, and not only for French, but for other languages that the community is asking for, we are monitoring. I think French has the advantage that the program is already here, but we need to monitor exactly what is the demand too.
Thanks for the question. Anyone else have a question for the whole group? Okay, thank you for coming. Please come talk to us if you have questions related to your children. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again.